are the king.
Hello.
Hello, Christian. How are you? Tell me about all the drama going on in Stereo World.
Okay. First, let's agree that this was just like random meeting God's will, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll tell you all about that, but first, I'm kind of on a mission right now.
What's your mission?
You ever heard of Duck Go?
What?
Duck
Go? Yeah, we used to. Oh no, just Duck Goose, not Duck Go.
So Go is a search engine that supposedly searches the dark web.
Really?
And we are going to search for something called CERN. There it is.
CERN?
CERN, the opening of the abyss. You know about it?
Yeah, CERN. It's the complex in Switzerland where the Hadron Collider is.
Right. So the European Organization for Nuclear Research, known as CERN, is a European research organization that operates the largest particle physics laboratory in the world. Okay. So this woman told me yesterday at my Bible study that there's a video of the scientists at the CERN building conducting human sacrifice.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find that. Yeah, well, I just found that. There it is, CERN human sacrifice. Okay. Ooh, yikes. Oh, God.
What?
I got a video. I have a video here.
Okay.
It might drop the call, but I'm just going to try it anyway.
Okay.
Okay. YouTube privacy warning. How often do you see that? Huh? Here's a big X mark before you watch this video. Okay.
Tell me what to see.
Okay, I see a camera that looks like it's not supposed to look at what it's looking at. It's hard to tell. It looks like a building. Lights, like the camera is shooting an exterior thing, like, but from an interior window. It looks like it's like, like snooping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's trying to stay hidden. So we're looking at, I don't know what we're looking at. Hold on. Okay, whoa.
There's a Wikipedia page on this, right?
No.
Okay.
So have you looked at some of this stuff already?
No, I just Googled it. CERN human sacrifice. And then the first thing that pops up is this Wikipedia video. And there's a bunch of articles also in all these other publications.
Okay, no. I'm totally watching people in black robes. This is bizarre. What the fuck is happening here?
Is there a statue of Shiva?
Yes. You watching this video?
No. It's a found footage video that depicts a supposed occult ritual occurring at the grounds of CERN. The video shows several people dressed in black cloaks surrounding a statue.
No, they're surrounding a woman. Yeah. I'm watching that right now.
Surrounding the statue of
oh my God.
Shiva. And apparently stabbing a woman in a human sacrifice. The video ends with the person filming, crying out, and running away. It became popular in August 2016. So it's been circulating for many years.
I just watched it.
And?
I just watched that video. Bizarre. For one, they're doing that shit outside. Like, why would you do that shit outside? The only problem with it, right, is that now that, like, mission accomplished. Lucifer's mission's been accomplished. We are so desensitized to it. My entertainment brain quickly disqualifies it as a staged thing. I've seen this. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have done this on sets. This isn't like remarkably, sophisticated in terms of its like realism. You know what I'm saying? Like that could have been somewhere, anywhere. They could have just erected a Shiva statue. They could have just all arranged to have the cameraman in there. It could have been designed to look like that, you know. That could have been the concept. Like, oh, we can make a found footage thing. Hello?
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I just had some disruption. Yeah, no, listen, you don't need to go on the dark web to find this video. It's like all over. It's like embedded on news websites. It prompted an investigation. Because like, okay, it's a faked ritual killing filmed in the court. It prompted an investigation. The spokeswoman at the whatever of particle physics at CERN suggests that scientific users at the Geneva facility let their humor go too far by staging an occult ritual. But the organization itself launched an investigation. Let's see. Permanent display. So the statue of the Hindu deity Shiva it's on permanent display at the complex.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's all bullshit.
So you don't think that the statue is on permanent display?
No, it is on permanent display.
And you think that's bullshit? Yeah.
Preparation church was great. I think the whole video has been debunked.
Oh, it's not real.
No.
Okay. Well, it's it's out there. God's real, that's for sure. God is real. The devil's real. People are trying to speed up the process. Not sure why.
I don't think the devil's real, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, how can the devil not be real if God's real?
Because God doesn't need an equal opposite. There is Satan. There is this adversarial force, but even that is created by God and is meant to propel a human being closer to enlightenment of God through a human experience, through a spiritual experience in the midst of a human experience.
So you don't think that Satan wants to take Earth from God?
No. Satan's pure mission and objective is to create impediments and obstacles and to be an adversary for our own spiritual development and growth.
And does everybody go into heaven?
I mean, I don't really have I don't share this concept of heaven that I think you do. I mean, if you ask me that question, then it gives me the impression that you have this concept of heaven and hell that I definitely don't share. First of all, I believe heavenly in reincarnation, but I obviously there's multiple dimensions. There's not just one. We are in one right now. Time is not linear. Like I'm like, what the fuck is heaven? Like it's an idea. I don't believe it's a place. I think it's a feeling, but I don't believe it's a physical place. I think that you can experience heaven on earth in the same way you can experience hell on earth. It's a state of mind. It's a state of being.
Okay, what happens when your heart stops and your brain stops?
The death of the physical vessel is, it's not as significant as I think. To me, it's not as significant as I think people make it out to believe. I think that the soul, which is already interconnected to the God, to the singular, I think it just returns to source. I think consciousness is always, relentlessly connected to the singular universal consciousness. And so I think that when a heart stops and a brain dies, it's just a soul is no longer having an experience dictated through the ego of a human body. It doesn't, it's the soul is energy. Life is energy. It doesn't, it doesn't disappear. It just gets replaced. It gets recycled. It gets refocused. It just goes somewhere else.
Shout
But
out
I
to
don't.
the Holy Trinity. Sorry, I was just shouting out to the listeners.
Gotcha, but I don't think it goes. I don't think it goes to a place that people envision to be heaven. Should we play these comments?
Yeah, definitely.
There's a little bit of truth to that, man. I mean, in the Bible, the Lord speaks about, don't look for the kingdom. They say, when your kingdom comes, how will I see it? And the Lord says, don't look there, don't look here, for you won't be able to see it because it's all around. So basically, we live in the kingdom of heaven. Basically, we live in God's kingdom right now. It's just all about perspective and perception.
Yeah, this is exactly what I meant by it's a state of mind.
You,
it's a state of thanks for that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a state of mind, it's a state of being. It's not a place or a destination you go. Who's to say it's not already here,
Let's get this comment.
That's why your girlfriend look like my mom. Period. Pooh. Yeah. Period. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
So anyway, talk to me about stereo. What's going on?
Hey, shout out to the listeners. Shout out to the 4 listeners. What's going on is that listeners love to listen to themselves. Keep the comments coming.
I kind of think that it is a place that we go. I believe that we are beings of light, and there is definitely another dimension.
Yeah, like I said, no one's disputing that. I mean, it's empirical fact. There are multiple dimensions. I'm saying that I'm not saying we don't already go there in this state. Just because we have a soul in this physical body in the 3rd dimension doesn't mean aspects of our consciousness and of our soul aren't simultaneously existing in other dimensions or traveling there. I just don't think that I don't think heaven is a destination. Does that make sense?
It's like just boom, let's go to another page, another chapter. How do you explain a human being? Because if we're all extensions from our conscious self, our light, if we ascend and return back to that, how am I supposed to understand why a guy touches a kid the wrong way? Why a person will shoot someone in the head in the middle of a BLM march? Why does all these things happen? I mean, is there bad? Is there good? Or is it all just kind of arbitrary? And then after we live an arbitrary life, we just return back to our consciousness?
No. First of all, and it's not our consciousness. It's take the laws of the natural laws of our natural world, like the laws of you have this planet, you have an animal, it's made up of certain molecules and vitamins and nutrients, right, and minerals.
And let me interrupt you for a second, because I think a lot, again, this app and just life in general, I think a lot of people are, especially right now in 2020, they just want to know what the point is. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. So wait.
Hold up. Let's get this comment too. There might be an answer.
Alex Powers. Hi guys. First of all, I have a question for you, Alex. Just a bit ago, you said that multi-dimensions are empirically factual, how were they measured? Like, I'm behind or lost or confused or whatever, but for it to be empirical, it's got to be measured, right? So how was it measured?
All right.
Question.
Well,
But wait, don't answer that. Don't answer
we're
that
just
yet. Don't answer that yet. Hold up all your answers. You're gonna ball them up into one Holy Spirit answer with this last comment.
Basically, what it is at the fall of man, whenever Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden for disobeying God's orders, during the fall of man, the earth was overran by evil, by sin, and sin is abundant in in this world, and God says in the Bible, God says that He will punish generations for the sins of their father. You know what I'm saying? Like say for instance, a sin that I commit today, my great grandchildren will pay for that, and as a result, the punishment for sin is ultimately death.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Nothing
I
there.
like I
Empirical dimension.
I can't get into the whole Christian you know, it also says that when Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden, knowledge, or well, as you say, Eden, it's the Garden of Knowledge in Hebrew. And go figure why. You know, they go to live with some other people, even though they were allegedly the first people, but they go to live with other people, and it just, you know, I'm not here to talk about Christian mythology. I'm not even here to talk about I'm not even here to talk about the Torah, because you know the thing is, like, you can look at the Torah and you can dissect it or interpret it through the lens of, you know, the King James Bible, and completely disregard the interpretations of the Hebrew, which, you know, it was not originally written in, but, you know, first Aramaic and then Hebrew. And, you know, our interpretation through a Jewish lens of the Torah is completely different from whatever we just heard. Personally, I think that that whole part of Genesis and that whole part of like Adam and Eve and I think it's actually a metaphor. I think it's a metaphorical story for consciousness, and that's more so of what we were just talking about. Going back to the whole thing about, you know, dimensions being measured. Time, for example, is two-dimensional. So there's like a real time, and then there's an imaginary time. In the same way that we see things on a piece of paper, we describe them as being two-dimensional, or one, you know, a single dimension, or a third dimension, meaning, you know, we know if something's 3D, right? We all understand what that means. So as far as like measuring them, I'm completely inequipped to explain that, because I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a physicist. But I know that based on equations, based on calculations of the Higgs particle, they have concluded that it is that the, well, I guess they can't conclude, but in measuring the Higgs particle, they have determined that there is likely multi-dimension there we're living in a multi-dimensional universe while simultaneously living in a universe. The measurement of the particle itself is just perfect enough, or it's like, you know, it's ultimate. I can't I'm not a physicist, I'm not a mathematician. In fact, I suck at math. But I think that it's ridiculous to believe that if we can replicate the first, and we can replicate two-dimensional things and three-dimensional things in our 3D world, then to just be like, all right, we stop there, and like no existence of a fourth, fifth, sixth, you know, it's just that's not what physicists believe. This is not like what all of everything they understand about the world and everything they've devoted their life to understanding about existence. Nothing points to the fact that we're living in a single dimension and that time is linear. As far as the math supporting that claim, you'll have to read a quantum physics book, because I'm not capable of regurgitating it. It's not my field of expertise. However,
I'm just gonna say, so listeners, if you guys know the math, easy for you to look it up on the Google. Feel free to. There's Connor isn't making. Feel free to let us know. Give us some numbers. Yeah, and then the nothingness, the arbitrariness of life. I'd love to hear that.
I kind of forgot what we were talking about. Oh, you were asking me like why does, you know, I think that why are we here? We're here to spiritually develop. We're here to develop our souls spiritually. Why though? So that we can experience the euphoric, profound, infinite abundance, you know, of love and creation that is like a God concept, right? But to innately discover that we are a piece of that we are inherently spiritual beings. That's really what I believe are the whole purpose of this is. Like, I think that a human experience in the third dimension is God's ability to incarnate in multiple beings with no understanding or memory or comprehension that they are like God, essentially. To then through the process of spiritual development, to then encounter themselves and have this, so God can encounter itself and have this experience of experiencing God, which God can't do unless if God is acting as God. But if God is acting as a human being or as a spiritual being having a human experience, then in that case, then a person, a consciousness, an ego can experience God. That's what I think the whole purpose of this is.
Can you just say that last part one more time, if you don't mind, about the ego and God?
Yeah, ego, which is like Greek, I think, for small. It's Latin. It's a Latin and it's a Greek term. It means small and separate, and the human being is distinct from God in that it has this sense of being small and separate instead of large, grand, and singular, or unified, right? And so I think for God, the only way God can experience itself is to incarnate into a human being that has an ego, therefore has this idea of itself that it is small and separate and not God. And then through the spiritual development of that consciousness, being able to find God and experience God. In other words, God being able to experience itself through an egoic being, through the experience of in the consciousness of an egoic being.
So it's almost like the denial, not the denial, but like God being the all collective. Let's say God was like a piece of like slime. Do you remember slime from Nickelodeon? You can't do that on television, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember slime.
So let's say like you open up a container of slime, right? And you pull out the slime, right? And you're holding the slime, and just for the sake of conversation, the slime is God, okay? And the collective of the slime is God. And so if you pull out a little piece of the slime, right? That little now that little piece could be put into the ego of a human body. Is that what you're saying?
I don't understand no, I don't think that's what I'm saying. Can you explain in a different way or further?
God is like this infinite consciousness, energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only way you can experience the infinite energy is if you understood what it was like to be a single particle.
Right.
And so for God to understand itself, it has to be the single particle. And then once it's been that single particle, then it can return to, as a question, this is a question, after it's been a single particle, it can then return to the collective. And that's the only way it can return or experience the collective is because it was a single particle?
Right. I mean, essentially. The only flaw in this metaphor is that I wouldn't say that, you know, God is not only the slime, but also the whole like slime factory and everything, you know, like, okay, a lot of times when I hear you talking about like God and the devil, Christian, I think of like, okay, I can like imagine like a God and I can imagine like a devil playing on a field. The only thing that I can't be more clear about is that my true idea of God isn't that God is participating in some match with the devil on some field. My perception of God is that God is the field they play on. God is like the clouds above. God is like everything surrounding. So, you know, like when you talk about God and the devil as almost being like pitted against one another. Well, personally, I think God is far more grand. I think God is far more abundant and not even in the same level. Like you talk about Lucifer, you talk about the devil. It's like that's like a thing that the minds of human beings have exaggerated, but there's no competition there. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no competitive edge whatsoever. It's like putting
For Lucifer, there's no competitive edge for Lucifer.
For what?
For Satan, is that what you're saying? That, or like, is that how I make it sound? Is that there's no competitive edge for Satan or God?
Well, first of all, in Kabbalah, you know, because in the Hebrew Bible, in the Torah, Satan just means adversary. That's all it means. And then the Kabbalists, in studying Kabbalah, take it a step further or expand on that idea that even Satan is made of God. God created Satan to serve us, actually, in our spiritual development. So, yeah, I mean, I can't even think of this. I can't even think of a concept like the devil or Lucifer as being in the same dimension as God, really. I mean, I say that jokingly, but we have a comment.
You brought up dimension.
Yeah,
you brought up dimension.
That was my callback to dimension. I mean, like, you know,
if one of us, if you're in a dimension, and let's say you're in dimension X, right? And then you're not in dimension X anymore, you're in dimension Y. Okay? So you were in dimension X, now you're in dimension Y. Do you go there?
What do you mean?
Like, for the sake of semantics and language, and let's answer that after this comment.
Maybe instead of using slime, use light, and that we are vessels to hold the light. Maybe that'll be a better way.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, light. Yeah, light. In terms of it's infinite, you know, kind of intangible.
Well, this is the other thing. We know that light is the quickest way to travel interdimensionally. So, I mean, listen, I mean, you're going back to this whole dimension thing. Like, if you're in dimension X and then I'm in dimension Y, like, do you just switch over? I guess I think I understand where that question's coming from, and to kind of cut to the chase, I would say that even the dimensions themselves are like that. They are like a testament to God's all-encompassing interdimensional nature. You know, it's like, this is what I guess I'm saying. Like, if the devil or Lucifer was a real thing, a real being, and was in one dimension, I would say that, you know, God doesn't need to go to that dimension to fight, because God presides over all the dimensions. God is the dimensions. God is all the dimensions. Like, this is what I mean. Like, they are not comparable. Like, they are not on the same, you know, even as an idea, even as a concept, Lucifer, the devil, it's like, no, there's human beings. This is the only, and even then, there's no competition with this. Although humans, because they have ego, like to think there's a competition. The closest thing that comes in competition with God is the human ego. But even then, there is no competition. We just, human beings think there is, because that's how the ego works. The ego is built to act like that. Like that is the purpose of the ego. The ego is intended to create an illusion where a person can think or act in a godlike way, But even then, the ego is of the God. Even then, the ego is a construct of God to do a job to serve the spiritual development that consciousness can achieve through a human experience in a human body.
Okay, because okay, let me get this comment. I can through a human body.
So all dimensions, however many exist, they exist and they don't disappear or reappear. Only your awareness of each dimension is either upgraded or downgraded. So your consciousness changes awareness of the dimensions, but the dimensions, however many there are, they exist eternally. They don't disappear, and you don't move from one to another. You just become aware or lose awareness of dimensions, and that's at least how I see it.
See, I like that, and what's interesting about that is because anyone that's ever heard me talk about it is, I think, the first time Christian and I talked about it, I talked about this extensively. I do believe that consciousness itself is maybe, a fitting. I think for me, it fits the God concept, right? And it's like very Descartes. It's like, I think, therefore I am. Like, we can't really even prove that anything. We can't prove much about our physical existence, but like, we are certain that we exist because we are aware of ourselves. Like, we have consciousness. So consciousness seems to be this like kind of litmus test for existence, sort of. And therefore, if dimensions are at the mercy of our consciousness, if dimensions are born out of simply, what our consciousness can comprehend, then that means that consciousness itself is generating. It is creative in nature, and it creates out of just like willing things into existence, like Zeus willed Athena into existence. Now, if this theory or this idea is very appropriate, because if God is this like ultimate creative force, this infinite like generator, right, of creation. Parker, sorry, my dog.
He's trying to tell you to. I think he's trying to tell you to stop saying if and maybe. Just convict. Just go with it.
Nah, because I don't pretend to know. I don't know shit about fuck. But I think that if this is true, dimensions are created out of our own consciousness, what we think what we can imagine or what we can comprehend, then that would also mean that consciousness is a perfect or near perfect concept of God. Because if God is this like all infinitely generating, just creative force, and if it's true, like it fits. Like, if consciousness is the thing itself that creates, then that seems pretty godlike to me. That seems pretty fitting of a God concept.
I have a question. Beyond like the technicalities of why you put your fingernail clippings in the toilet, beyond like the technical religious reasons, for what spiritual reason do you do it? I mean, why not just mindfulness?
Yeah, it's literally to be aware. Because as you enhance, like, the more mindful, this is like the whole. What? What happened? Oh, did you sneeze?
What?
Oh, la brioche. What was I gonna say?
To what end? To what end are you executing the mindfulness? Like, what is the receipt for the mindfulness?
expansion of consciousness. I mean, so like, okay, yoga.
So couldn't that just be heaven then?
Well, I mean, again, you asked me, you're like, I already told you, I don't believe heaven is a destination. I told you I thought it was a state of being, a state of mind. So yeah, to answer your question, the more you expand your consciousness, the more you elevate your consciousness to fifth, sixth dimension consciousness, then yeah, the more euphoria I think you experience, or the more heavenly state you experience. But you're still having a human experience. As long as your consciousness is in this body, you're still having a human experience. So the key is like, okay, you're not devoid, you're not void of, like, you're not exempt from struggle or from suffering or from observing struggle or suffering, but how you perceive it is different. Like, I mean, I personally believe that heaven, like I said, is not a physical place. I don't even think it's a place in a different dimension, like a non-physical. I think it's a state of mind, state of being, state of consciousness. Therefore, I think that heaven is the all presence, the full presence, infinite, abundant presence of God, right? Or an awareness of God. Therefore, I believe hell, its equal opposite, is the absence of an awareness of God. It is the absence of a mindfulness of God, right? So yeah,
Which sounds bad. That sounds bad. Like the absence of a mindfulness of God. That sounds bad.
All I was getting is that like, if you observe or you perceive struggle or suffering in any way, but you have an awareness of God through that struggle and through that suffering, then who's not to say you haven't reached a heavenly state? You're still human, so you're not exempt from suffering or struggle or from observing it. Sorry, what was your question? Because you were breaking up.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. Sorry. Moderators, it's a good conversation. Stop messing it up. Let's get this comment.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you studied Kabbalah. Interesting. And maybe we could talk a little about Ein Sofe.
Ein Sofe?
I didn't hear what he said.
He was talking directly to you.
I know, but there was a noise. I missed just the last word he said. Also, we've spoken briefly, and to be honest, sometimes he says things, and because they're not in a Hebrew accent, I don't understand them, because the only other time I hear them here in Israel is like a Hebrew speaker saying them, and there's some things that he's said in English, and I'm like, what? And then he explains it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've never heard it pronounced like that before. So I apologize, my man. But send us. They're listening. I'd love to get clarity on what you mean.
That guy's very smart. He has in-depth knowledge of the Torah. Very, very cool guy.
Yeah.
Remembering what I'm talking about is really hard usually, because I'm not dwelling in what happened. I'm usually just focused on the moment, because whatever I'm supposed to know is now.
No, it's good. It's good. And, it's good. It's a good thing.
So I can't even, I do know that I'm still trying to understand, like, why would I be here and I want to do good things, but then there's somebody else here that wants to touch kids. There's another person here that wants to steal. There's another person here that wants to lie. There's all kinds of people here with especially here on this platform, just like, they'd rather just sit at home talking into the phone all day than go out and work or try to find something to do with their time that helps their community. So much so to the point that they just add their Cash App and their Venmo accounts and all of their send me money accounts. And it's not work. That's not work. That's just like literally sitting on the sidewalk with your hand out begging for money, or like a street entertainer in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard who's dancing, sweating their ass off all day to earn a couple $100 for 5 people. You know what I'm saying? These guys are sweating all day to make $65. And, it's just crazy to me that, like last week, some people on here spent hours on here to make $50.
Yeah.
You break it down, it's like, dude, you made like $5, $6, $7 an hour. What's the point? That's less than minimum. minimum wage.
Yeah, I mean,
why am I working hard, so hard to be good, and then there's people in here that are just lazy as fuck and don't do anything with their lives and end up getting caught up in crime and end up, end up going down a road where it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse because they feel cornered and they got the stress of life and the next easy decision is just go steal something from a store, go steal something from a grocery store, and then boom, they're arrested. And then it's like, maybe they even resisted. And then it's like maybe they even got shot in the back by a cop who was just like afraid for his own life. But I'm over here sitting here registering voters. Why?
So you seem to be really concerned about some perceived injustices, although not all of them. Some. You seem to be really concerned about other people's lives and their journeys and their spiritual development. But like, how does this all affect you? How does this all impact you?
Love your neighbor as you would love yourself, and turn the other cheek. So
right.
I mean, it affects me positively, negatively. Sorry for my throat. The smoke in LA is so bad right now.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It looks like it's just fog everywhere. It's crazy.
Wow.
And it doesn't go away. It's just all day. You can actually look into the sun, and it's just a little orange dot in the sky.
Crazy.
It's actually a little better today. It was super bad 2 days ago, but yeah.
Wow.
Who cares about me? I care about me. My mom cares about me. That's about it. I have a couple friends
why care about other people? Like, who cares if they got their Cash App thing in their profile and they're like, whatever. Who cares if people are grinding and like going hours and hours on this thing and wind up making less than minimum wage? Who cares if other people are more lazy about it? Like, what does it matter? Like, how does it?
I believe God cares. I believe God cares. And if God is the all, the all light, everything, then it does directly affect me because I am connected to that through your explanation.
Right, so, but like this is
others go down, I'll go down too. Like we will all go down. Some of us have to try to lift others up.
Right. So this is what I'm saying. So like lifting others up instead of like, like when you see things about people that bother you and you choose to focus on those things. I'm not like, listen, I'm not judging you at all. I know that, but I'm not judging you because it doesn't matter to me, but I am going to observe when you see those things about people that bother you and then you kind of you explain why it bothers you. I mean, someone would probably hear that and be like, oh, you seem like you're judging that person, right? So I'm not judging you, but like my observation is that like maybe you're judging some people right now, and if I'm wrong, let me know. My point is that
at the end of the day, we all do that. Not to interrupt you, but we do all do that. Everybody does it. We're not supposed to.
Yeah, we're not supposed to, but like, I mean, there are people out there that don't. Maybe there are people out there that actually they don't. But you never mind that. You bring up. It doesn't matter. Listen, you're right. It doesn't matter if people do or they don't, because it is an inevitable part of the human experience, apparently, and that is, I think, like the key to not judge. Like, like it's easy to judge people for the way that they live their life or the way that they don't live their life or for this or that. It's maybe even easier to judge people for being judgmental. So even not judging people for being judgmental, that's like, wow, that's like expert level. But going back to what you said something like, oh, that there's, You can either cut people down, you can spend time and energy cutting people down, or you can spend more time and energy and focus it towards building people up. And I mean, I think this is because we all have ego, right? None of us can avoid the ego. It's like we're having a human experience, so clearly we're meant to have this experience, this relationship with our own ego, right? But it's like, how do you take
all those listeners and they're listening.
Oh, hey. But so how do you take this concept of ego and transmute it? Like, how do you use it in a positive way? And I think that you just said that. I think you just pointed out, like, that's how you use ego in a positive way is building people up, seeing their behavior, and instead of judging their behavior, being like, hey, what you do, how you do things is like your choice. But I want to ask you, like, would you like to do something differently? And if you do want to do things differently, is there any way I can help you? Like, I might be able to, like there's ways to use the ego beneficially. And when I hear you say, you think, God, well, and I ask you, like, well, what is it? What do you care if people have their Cash App in their profile? Like, what does it matter to you? And you're like, well, I think God cares. I don't know, Christian. I think that there's a hole in the Arctic. I think that all of the West Coast is on fire. I think that, there's all kinds of environmental turmoil right now. And I just don't know that God really cares about people putting their Cash App in their profile. I think that there's like other matters that are way more pressing because, God didn't just bring into existence human beings. There's also 13 million other recorded species on this planet. I think God cares about them. I think God cares about the 13 million other recorded species on this planet and the mycelia and the plant life and everything, every living being, every piece of organic material on this planet. I think God really cares about. I don't know that Cash Apps and profiles is really on God's radar.
Okay. And that's the beauty of being human. You're entitled to your opinion. I think God's like super infinite. He cares about all of it. There's nothing he doesn't care about.
I agree with you. I guess my question is to you is, why do you care more? Because you are a piece of God, right? The seed of God is planted in every single one of us. So I guess, what is it about you? Because you're a divine being. Why do you care about the Cash App symbol and profile, but maybe even more so than maybe even more so than you care about the fires around you? Like you already stated, like, oh, it's red outside. You can look right at the sun because it's so smoky. It's like, how is that not a bigger part of the conversation that the human being known as Christian Steele is choosing to have today?
Well, first of all, the hills are going to burn anyways. That's in the Bible. So I can't stop that. And I'm not trying to stop anybody from doing anything. I'm trying to point out how, first of all, I'm more worried about real bad, evil shit out there, like pedophiles, like murderers, like ideology that's forcing, kids out of their homes and seeking solace and refuge in gangs and brotherhood and fellowship in gangs. That's a problem. All right. But like a big problem with all of this, and I can prove this by going back into the Bible, is that we have gotten away from our human natural ability to work, to just toil, to work hard, to sweat. Now it's all about working smart. And not to say that that's a evil thing, but there is something to be said about being able to grow your own food and not have to eat the poisoned food that they make us eat from the grocery stores.
Right.
There is something to be said about starting your own business and not working for a corporation who dictates to you what you earn.
Right.
All of those things are, I believe, integral to the human spirit. And I see corporations crushing small businesses, choking them out of existence right now. That's what I see. I see homeless people starting fires all over California, all over Oregon, because they can't afford housing. Okay.
Is it proven that these are homeless people starting fires? Because one of them was the opposite of homeless people. One of them was a gender reveal party by some rich assholes that had a house in the hills. They weren't. They were like the opposite of homeless.
I mean, I don't know the details over every single one of them, but I would say that I'm not
Well, I mean, it's a
inaccurate by
little, it's a
saying
little
some homeless
inflammatory.
people
It's a
started
little
a couple
inflammatory
fires.
to say homeless people are starting fires all over California and Oregon because they can't get housing. When probably the most high-profile aspect of one of these major fires is the fact that it was started by pyrotechnics at a gender reveal party.
And I heard about that story. But I also heard about encampments, along in the hills, because basically the cities and the counties are allowing people to just go up into the hills and camp without a permit and start fires, like little cooking fires.
Yeah.
I watched the houses
Why
right
are
next
they
to my house.
homeless to
Leslie,
begin with?
hold on, Leslie. Hold on. Let me finish. I watched the house literally right next to me, my neighboring house here in Hollywood, be evicted by developers. Okay, the people were evicted by developers. Then those developers do what developers do. And I want to get to that comment. Let me just get to this comment, but I want to finish that story.
Hey, if y'all could follow my OnlyFans page, I post pictures of my girlfriend's feet. We're kind of in a rough time right.
This is what I said. Wait. Why delete that? Because I'm saying that's the kind of bullshit that's out there. And I don't even want to cancel it. I want people to see it. That's what people need to know is out there. But anyways, this house was the developer didn't the developer, as they do, the strategy is to depress the value of the neighboring land. So he didn't do anything with it. He just let it sit there until it basically got taken over by homeless people who were homeless. Okay, they came to go live in these evicted homes that were empty because they had nowhere else to live. Because the main guy that lived there, who was homeless, he was just addicted to crystal, so he couldn't save money to get a security deposit and be a contributing member to society by having a home and a job and a role. His role was to smoke meth in an abandoned house, which eventually turned into a fire and caused the whole house to burn down and almost burned down my house. So personal experience is how I jumped to the conclusion that homeless people are causing fires. I've seen it.
Okay, but that's one instance that you have based on a personal experience. So to go and then make this blanket statement that homeless people are causing fires. No, I mean, I think the bigger conversation, the bigger thing to point out is that human beings are causing fires. Human beings of all walks of life are causing fires out of negligence, because not homeless people, not rich people, not, black people, not white people, human beings as a whole are not
I
only
can
being
agree with you there.
negligent,
Human
not
beings are
only being
causing.
negligent of their home,
Yeah.
their
Amen.
home planet.
Amen.
There, but you keep bringing up well, why am I seeing all this disaster? Why am I seeing all this horrible shit happening? If not for I think that to curb these problems, to whether it's pedophilia, child sex trafficking, to the collapse of the planet, of the environment. It's we can talk about murders and we can talk about gang violence and we can talk about all this shit. Gangbangers? No, not gangbangers, honey. Gang violence. We can talk about all this stuff. At the end of the day, I think that the environment is the most pressing issue, because it doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. We're all going to be affected because we've all collectively neglected to honor our home, which is the greatest gift any of us were ever given, was this planet. And secondly, the answer, I believe, to addressing these issues is the internal development. When you stop looking at all the destruction around you and you stop looking at all the systemic behavior and the dysfunction around you of people, and you turn inward and focus on your own your own dysfunctions, the own ways about your being and your behavior and the way you live life, how it affects you, when you develop your own spirit, this is what manifests a different reality. This is what manifests a different world. This is what heals. Seriously, this is what I believe. And just going back to the one thing you said earlier about, and it's not about working hard anymore. It's about working smart. I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. This third dimension, this physical reality, is a very small part of our reality, but it happens to be, the biggest one in our minds because it's the one that we perceive, right? The physical world, the third dimension, it's such a small fraction of our reality because the rest of our reality we can't perceive with our physical senses. We can't see it, we can't touch it, we can feel it kind of, but we can't smell it, we can't taste it. We can kind of imagine it, we can kind of comprehend it, which is why you asked me, do you believe in heaven? You ask me that because you comprehend. You comprehend a God. You comprehend a God. You comprehend a world beyond the third dimension. And so it might be shocking to you, but the truth is money and material security, all the things that we need in the physical world, to food, money, even clean water, that stuff doesn't come from hard work. It comes from the spirit. Everything we have in this physical world comes from the spirit. I know it doesn't make sense, but in my personal experience, it's true.
Okay, I'm gonna hit these comments.
There is a fire going on in my asshole as we speak.
Lovely.
Yeah.
As I was being totally serious, me and my girlfriend are going through a really rough time. We're just trying to make some extra money. I know there might be some people out there who might be into it. So if you just follow on my OnlyFans page.
Probably not in this room, dude. I don't think you might want to go into Gabriel Martin's room. There's probably a lot of people that are into that. You could probably go into, there's a guy on here or a girl on here named Kissy. You could go to her room. She's super into phone sex and morbid, sick, nasty shit. Yeah. Just not this room, my boy. Not this room. Here we're just talking about everything, man. And keep the comments coming. We know the listeners like to listen themselves.
Yeah, we love it.
Sorry to interrupt you, Alex. But I'm all about the comments. As soon as the comments come in, I feel like it doesn't even matter what we're saying. Just play.
Bro, I want to second that other dude though. I got a fire in my asshole too, bro. I feel you, bro.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's fire not only on the land, but there's fire in assholes too. And that's probably to me that's Lucifer. If that guy's got some fire in his asshole, that's demonic, and that's my experience. You feel me? When I'm on this app, I meet demons. I meet demonic people. Oh,
listen, dude.
That's an adult.
I just think it's food in America. I think that's just food. I think food in America is demonic. I think it's the work of Satan. I'm not so.
We're in agreement. See, we agree. We agree on Satan. Come on.
I say that jokingly. But no, it is. I'll tell you why. Because greed. Greed,
like the contest that everybody participates here.
Greed is the reason, American food. Did you know that Americans have unhealthy assholes? They've done statistics. They've done studies. We have very poor, not we, but Americans have very poor asshole health because of America.
You are in Tel Aviv. You have supreme asshole health. Your asshole health is on a level.
I wish that were true. I haven't been eating well the last week. I haven't been eating very good.
Why? You're jealous? My roommate's jealous that you're in Tel Aviv and he's not.
Why? Is he gay?
That's a what? I don't understand that.
That's irrelevant.
What?
No, that's irrelevant. This is the gay capital of the world. There's more gay men living here in Tel Aviv than anywhere. Normally, people that want to come to Tel Aviv, they're gay men that want a rich husband working in tech.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It wasn't because I'm gay. It's because I'm Palestinian. That's why.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
wonderful. When was the last time you were in Tel Aviv?
Well, probably. Wow, you just made my face melt, Alex Powers. That Tel Aviv is the gay capital of the world now.
Bro, my asshole is like a fucking chewed up fried piece of calamari. My fucking asshole's on fire.
And this is why I X'd out his comment to begin with. But no, we just have to hear him plug his OnlyFans where he's posting pictures of his girlfriend's feet because they're going through rough times. No, that's whatever.
That's evil. That's evil for you.
Alex, I have to say you are incredibly insightful and enlightening, and it seems like you're focused strongly on all the right things. Obviously, even if you're not, 100% accurate on everything. I'm not saying that I don't think you are. I'm saying that I'm aware enough to know that not everyone is. I happen to think you are, but that doesn't mean my assessment of you is correct. Point is, I think you have a very sharp, positive perspective on things, and I'm going to focus on people like that because that's what I believe brings us all towards the light, towards enlightenment, towards raising our consciousness to the next level. So I'm going to thumbs up on all of your perspectives and your positivity, Alex. You have a very astute and sharp mind, and thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was very, very sweet. Let's play this next comment, and then we'll address those wonderful, beautiful
I just
things.
want to second Gino, and I was just joking around, guys. I just wanted to light up the mood a little bit. Seemed like it was getting a little too serious.
See, redemption.
Yeah, people learn.
By casting light on the darkness, they redeem themselves.
I mean, his profile says, "Show me your feet."
I never read the profile.
I mean, I don't. In general, I don't trust ploys for foot fetishes, and I hope it's his girlfriend. I hope she gave consent for him to post pictures of her feet on OnlyFans. One can only hope because when it comes to things of this nature, there's very few faith to have.
Word in. Shout out to the light. There is a profile on here. Give her a look. Her name is the Light. She's great. Check out the Light and follow the both of us if it's possible. I mean, honestly, I'm just asking Alex questions, and I don't disagree with her. I think it's we just need to dig deeper.
I only take pictures of her feet when she's sleeping. She actually doesn't even know that OnlyFans exists, but don't tell her.
Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go. Some more confession. He just gave you more confession.
Kind of my intuition. Kind of why I didn't want to play his comment to begin with. I mean, I'm hoping he's joking, but like the second he said girlfriend's feet, I was like, I'm not playing the rest of this comment because unless he comes out and says that, in a non-joking way that she knows about it, like she's in on it, I'm not gonna give this airtime. Listen, I want to go back to talking about your Palestinian roommate. So yeah, I asked him. I was like, when was the last time you were in Tel Aviv?
He's like somewhere else. It's not like we're just sitting next to each other.
If you guys actually think I'm serious, like I don't even know, cause like I'm only here. I'm like I hang out with all the comedians, so I'm just here making jokes.
See, more confession.
Couldn't tell. I mean, this is why I said I was like, I hope he's joking. I can't tell if he is joking, but like, I'm talking to an avatar.
Kind of the problem with comedy, right? It's very subjective. It's very subjective. It's very subjective. One man's joke is another man's insult. So you want to talk about Palestinian and Israel, or Palestine and Israel?
No. I just wanted to talk to your Palestinian roommate.
Okay, I can try to make that happen for you.
What did he say when I asked him when was the last time he was in Tel Aviv? What did he say?
She'd like to know when's the last time you were in Tel Aviv.
Never.
He's never allowed. Oh, right. He's Palestinian.
He couldn't never come. Where was he coming from? Gaza, West Bank? Where was he coming from?
Oh man, this is like. Do you guys want to just talk to each other real quick? Okay, just talk to him for a second. What did you say? What was that question again?
Are you Gazan? Were you from West Bank?
No, I'm from Nablus.
Oh, okay, that's in the West Bank, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like such a historical city.
Yeah, it is. It is a city.
Yeah,
I've never been though.
You've never been?
No.
Oh, so you weren't born in Nablus?
No, I was born in Ohio, but I was brought up in the UAE, Jordan, Yemen. Yeah.
Wow, that's a really diverse 3 places to live: the Emirates and Yemen and
Yeah, my dad was working computer engineering, so we had to travel a lot.
Wow,
Ended up in the UAE. Yep.
So you never been in Tel Aviv?
No.
You never been, and that's why. Why have you never been?
First of all, my parents were never allowed, so I couldn't go by myself. That's all.
There you go.
When did they emigrate from?
When did they immigrate?
Palestine.
Well, probably 1948, 1949.
Oh wow! So right after the war.
Yeah, because our village got raided from the mobs when they first came in.
The mobs, who were they?
There were actually like 5 original forces that fought the war.
Because we have mobs in America now. It's infiltrating.
It wasn't mobs we call them mobs because all they did is raid villagers.
Break stuff.
Break them, and just kick them out of their villages.
Kick them out of their villages, which is happening right now in America.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing. No, I mean there's not a war happening in America right now.
Oh yes, there is. But that's definitely our opinion.
But there's it's not a war for it's not like the British Empire left yesterday and then the 2 remaining groups or 3 remaining groups are like, okay, now we got to fight over the land. Like, you're not fighting over land right now.
Tell that to Portland. Tell that to Chad. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. That's the thing in America. I mean, they are fighting a war in Portland for land.
Yeah, I mean, but America is it's a country that's been built, and in 1948, people were building a country, and the British had just left, and it was left to a few groups of people to determine, all right, like whose country is this now? It's a land of people, multiple people who had been denied a national identity, and that's an issue obviously that Palestinians are still seeking, and still struggling for, but in 48,
I would think socialists in America feel the same way.
They have a national identity. It's not one they like at the moment.
Hold up.
With political correctness right now, you can't make a joke without offending anyone. So, where's the line? Most comedians just cross the line. So, I feel like people are way too sensitive sometimes now.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
There's a difference between a religious war and a cultural war. You have to be able to define the lines between those. You can't just muddy the lines between everything and make everything.
I don't know what he means by religious war, because I wouldn't consider the war of 1948 to be a religious war at all. I wouldn't consider it necessarily to be, a cultural war. I don't know if that's even the word I would use for that either.
Right. I think it's all just war.
You have to live your thoughts by Occam's razor. You can't just connect everything to everything. You have to keep slicing it down until you find the truth.
Totally agree. That's why I gotta ask questions. I come on here and I make statements, but I ask a lot of questions too.
You ask a lot of questions, but I have to say, to compare the mobs going on now to instances in history where people have been displaced, refugees have been displaced because opposing forces, militia forces, whatever, removed them from their homes, from their villages. It's not comparable to what's going. That kind of thing is not comparable to what's going on in the United States right now.
I disagree, but that's what's beautiful about being alive in 2020, especially alive in America, where we are allowed to disagree with no, what we thought was no recompense, but now in 2020, if you disagree, that's politically incorrect and apparently deserves a whole bunch of public shaming and maybe even
I don't know who you're talking to.
a bulletin. This is the kind of stuff I'm seeing in my media. Look up a guy on Instagram called From Kalen, FROMKALEN. He goes to the front lines. He videotapes it all. There's another one called, and this might be like, anti-message, anti-narrative here, but there's an Instagram out there called All Lives Matter Official. And that goes to the front lines and shows everything that's happening, the real news, the real footage, the real frontline footage. It's
I was referring to religious war. Those militias are based on religion and based on extremism.
Is he talking about the militias in the United States today?
I'm not exact because I don't necessarily. I mean, it's war, and all wars have multiple campaigns of ideology.
People definitely get canceled for political correctness now. Like people losing jobs over stupid. Like I'm not talking about like actual racist stuff, but like even like comedians.
Yeah, we know, Steve.
People getting fired just because like they wore a certain shirt, and it just doesn't line up with the company's politics. It's true.
No, I'm talking about in the Middle East.
Oh, see, he's talking about the religious war in the Middle East.
No, I can't remember what he just said, but it's whatever he just said in reference to war in the Middle East. It wasn't exactly what I would consider accurate or.
I think he was saying there was a difference between a cultural war and a religious war, and that we couldn't just. He was telling the both of us we can't just say that war in World War II resulted in, was connected to the mobs doing what they did
he was saying you can't just group everything together and give everything the same label. He was saying you gotta slice things up and find the truth, and the truth is the War of 1948 was not a religious war. Those were not factions based on. I mean, I would say it was fighting between some different ethnic groups, some different cultural groups, but it wasn't a religious war as a religious war would be defined. It wasn't like the Crusades. The Crusades were religious wars.
I thought he said it was a cultural war. I thought he was saying that World War II was a cultural war.
He's not talking about World War II. I think he thinks he's talking about the War of 1948, which is the war
in that region of the world. I don't even know about
at that point, the British Empire had just left, leaving a land that had no cultural identity. There were multiple ethnic groups here, and so there wasn't a cultural war to be fought then either, because a culture had yet to emerge after the British left.
You don't think there was many cultures there?
I just said there were multiple there were multiple ethnic groups, multiple cultures in the land now known as Israel and Palestinian territories. And when the British left, there was not a cultural identity because the British had been there. Once they left, then it was many different groups of people trying to take control of the land and to build a cultural identity and to build a nation. And today, that nation is Israel. And a lot of people don't realize this, but there were survivors from the Holocaust that arrived in Israel weeks, days after being liberated from camps in Eastern Europe, and then as refugees came to Palestine Mandate and were handed guns. Straight off the boat from fleeing, Nazi-occupied Europe, and were handed guns and told, okay, now you have to fight for a country that we're building. And people don't realize that. So like to
Is that indoctrination? Like to take somebody that's been like terrorized now because of World War II, pull them right off of a boat and give them a gun?
No, it's not indoctrination. It's called survival. It's called necessity.
Well, what if you didn't want to fight? What if you were already traumatized?
Those people were already traumatized.
So what if they did not want to fight?
They just been liberated from concentration camps and death camps. Who's to say they weren't traumatized? But this is what I'm saying.
I just don't understand why it's the right thing to do. I don't understand why pulling these people off boats and giving them guns to go fight in a war is the right thing to do.
Because it was about survival. It was about not being eliminated. I mean,
you said they were traumatized, right? You said they were definitely traumatized, right?
Would you be traumatized after being liberated from a concentration camp?
And I would not want to have to go fight in another war. I would be like, can I just sit in a mental ward for like a year and figure my life out before I have to go fight in another war?
They didn't have that luxury. You're thinking of this through the lens of a person that's grown up in an affluent society that's never been in a concentration camp. Now imagine you're in a concentration camp, you flee to a country that's not even your country. Like, it's not a country of your own. It's not a country of your own. Like, it's not like, a Jewish state.
I totally get that.
What?
I totally get that. I totally understand.
So I don't understand your question.
No, I'm just making the statement that if I was suffering in a concentration camp because of war, and then I was liberated, quote, end quotes, you're telling me I'm liberated, all I got to do is get onto the train or whatever, this bus or whatever, and you're going to take me to my freedom, okay. And then you drive me somewhere and I get off the bus and you hand me a gun, I'm going to be like, this doesn't feel like freedom.
Yeah, because there was still fighting left to do.
So I don't know, leave me where I was at. Can I go back to my home? Hold up.
I'm pretty sure that war, 1948, had definitely religious connotations to it. I could be wrong, but I think it definitely did.
What did he say?
He feels like that the war in 1948 had religious connotations, and I'm going to play some more comments.
No,
he's wrong. It's a religious war because it's two religions. I believe it's Judaism and Arabic. I could be wrong. Like, I haven't brushed on it in a while, but it was definitely two religions.
Okay, no, you're wrong, because it wasn't. First of all, Arabic is not a religion. Arabs are an ethnic group.
We got a lot of comments here. They want to ask you a lot of stuff. Can we get the comments out first? Because we understand that you disagree. So, like, you guys will be able to argue like that very well.
It's not about argument. It's not about disagreeing. The fact of the matter is, Arab is not a religion. It is an ethnic group. And no, Israel was founded on secular Zionism. It was not driven by the religious identity. It was driven by the ethnic identity of the Jewish people that were coming from all over the world, fleeing various ethnic cleansings and genocides, not just the one in Eastern Europe. Yes, we can continue the comments.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've learned, that's what it was.
Yeah, see, that's
not correct. It's a very
You like that song?
Yeah, I used to love it.
I feel like you're totally denouncing the religious aspect. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just wondering why.
Okay, wait, before you answer that, please just hit the next two comments and let them hear.
I meant Arabic, I meant Muslim, but I mean, I feel like you just want to be argumentative and try instead of getting to the point.
And just that last one?
Well, I think it's not that easy to just say, yeah, I just got set free from this camp. I think I'm fine. I'll survive in an asylum or whatever. Like, the camp is their asylum. It's crazy in there. And just to fight for their lives, they will fight for someone else's country to survive and have a better life. It's not that easy to just sit down and relax. It's a case of survival of the fittest, you know?
mean, it
If
just
they
sounded
do
like.
want to live, they will fight for their lives, even if it's for another nation.
So yeah, Christian,
I
this
just
is
believe
exactly
people have a
listen,
choice. I
listen,
thought God
this
gave
is
us free will to have a choice.
no,
That's
no,
all.
no. Listen, this is exactly what I was saying before, and for whatever reason, it wasn't deemed a good enough answer. You asked me, well, why couldn't I just not fight? I told you, it's called survival, and she hit it on the head. You don't have a choice. You've just been released from you've just been liberated by Allied forces from a death camp. Okay, you somehow survived that. And now you have to flee Nazi Germany. The only place for you to go is Israel. It's the only place for you to go. And even then, it's not even really your country. And you have no choice but to fight to make sure that you survive again. This is not some spoiled, I just want to fucking kick it in a psych ward for a year after that traumatic experience. No, it's not an option. And I tried to explain that to you. It wasn't an option. It wasn't an option for my girlfriend's grandfather to flee Nazi Germany after being liberated from a camp. The only place for him to go is Israel. And he was handed a gun and was told, you need to fight now for your survival more. Just because you think you're done surviving doesn't mean you're done surviving if you actually want to survive. Now, going back to Stereo Steve's comment, no, I'm not being argumentative, because if I wanted to be argumentative, I'd be talking to you. I'm not trying to have an argument. I'm telling you, I'm not being dismissive of the fact that it's a religious war. It's simply not. If you don't understand why I'm telling you that, I'll tell you why. Because I'm a Jew that lives in Israel. And I'm telling you, I know the history of my own country. This was not a religious war. It was not about Jews fighting Muslims. If anything, there's Druze in here too. Druze people, a lot of them are Christian as well. There's Bedouins, okay? There are multiple ethnic groups, multiple cultures represented in Israel, and at the time in 1948 when the British left. It was not a war fought over religious matters. It was a war fought over political identity. And I know that as an Israeli. This is why I'm insisting on it, because I'm not going to let an American named Steve tell me why the war for my country's independence was fought. It was not over religion.
I say you always have a choice. Always.
If you want to die, then yeah, you have a choice. If you don't want to die and you want to survive, then unfortunately for people like my girlfriend's grandfather, he had to fight. He had to be handed a gun literally right after getting off the boat, having fled Nazi Germany. He needed to fight.
So in my defense, like in my explanation of my own character, okay, I probably would have fought. I probably would have survived a Nazi camp. I probably would have led a group of people to liberation, and I probably would have helped with some kind of declaration of independence. I'm a patriot, okay? But I would never tell anyone they have no choice. Never.
So why is the West Bank considered the Holy Land, and why is there still wars going on based on religion over there? Or are we being brainwashed thinking it's religion and it's actually political? Like I said, I would love for you to correct me, and I'm not trying to be offensive.
Right. So as a whole, the whole region is, commonly referred to as the Holy Land. That does not just include West Bank. There are two very holy cities in the West Bank, in the Palestinian territories. Part of Jerusalem is in there, but also part of Jerusalem is Israeli territory. It's under Israeli control, and we claim it. We claim it as our own city, but kind of like Berlin, it's divided. There's the Palestinian sector of Jerusalem, and then there's the Israeli sector of Jerusalem. And then, Hebron is also a very holy city, which is in Palestine. You also have Sfat and you have Tiberias, which are two places, and those are in Israel. So I mean, the whole land is known as the Holy Land because that's really a Christian characterization of it. That's because it's the land where Jesus walked, and so therefore it's referred to as the Holy Land. But when you talk about Abraham and all these, prophets, these Jewish prophets from the Torah and stuff, there's other speculation as to where certain events happened, biblical events happened, because a lot of people would speculate things happen. There's a lot of things that occurred in what is now modern day Iraq, or then at the time Mesopotamia. So yeah, okay, Israel's known as the Holy Land, but the fighting there is political. I mean, all right, it's people that are predominantly different religions, but I think that to assess it as being a religious war, I think is part of brainwashing. I think it's honestly part of Christian brainwashing. I think Christians have been not Christians. I think Christians are great. I think that the Christian right, Christian fundamentalists have been very effective at painting it as a religious war. But really it's, Palestinians are an ethnic group that are found all over the Middle East. There are Syrian Palestinians, there are Egyptian Palestinians, just like there's Bedouins all over, the region. There's Bedouins in Israel, there's Bedouins in the Sinai Peninsula, there's Bedouins in Syria. And, Palestinians are just another ethnic group that do not have a national identity. There's a lot of Palestinians in Israel, but as of 17 or 1918, the British declared that this land, which, formerly was the Kingdom of Israel and the Kingdom of Judea and Samaria, in the Bible, they declared that it was the national home of the Jewish people. That's the Balfour Treaty. So, the downside, it's not over religion. Sorry, I just got a call and it kind of cut out. But yeah, it's over political identity and national identity. It's not a religious war.
Awesome. And guys, I haven't had a chance to say, just because I haven't really had a chance to say, but if we get blocked out, you guys know that you're in the back of the pack. They got me on the shadow ban. They got me on the moderators. They're always listening to my conversations. So if you're trying to stay in the room, you got to double tap. If you want to stay in the room, you got to leave a comment. My boy listening, thank you for waiting. Thank you for locking yourself in the room. If you want to lock yourself in the room, tap my face or tap the face of Alex Powers and hit the talk next button. Otherwise, you're going to get bumped out to the main room. It's part of the algorithm. You see, the algorithm is designed to eliminate idle profiles. Okay? So when a profile's idle, it just thinks that it can do what it wants with the profile, like as if it knows there's bots on here, and then put it in the main room so that it can push whoever it wants to the top of the top of the leaderboard. So if you're trying to stay in rooms, you got to leave comments, you got to double tap, you got to try to wait in line to talk to the talker. That's the only way. Otherwise, they think you're an idle account and they push you to the front.
Alex, once again, I appreciate your insight. Like I said, once again, I wasn't trying to say anything to offend you, and also, like I said, I don't want to say like I said so many times, but I'm not like brushed up on that. But I hear what you're saying, but I still feel like I want to do a little bit of more of my own research. But I appreciate your input.
Yeah,
LOL. Your own research. I love it. It's like, you know what? Let me maybe try to understand this situation about the end of the war fought for the independence of Israel, or for Israel to become a country. And here I have an Israeli who lives in Israel telling me why. But you know what? I got to do more of my own research. Whatever.
Yeah. Did that upset you?
I mean, it's like people's. No. Like, by all means, educate yourself. But it's like, I'm standing in the same room as someone who gave like
wait. You're standing? Because that's amazing. I'm just a floating head. You have a body and legs? That's crazy. Where'd you get that from?
Oh, God gave it to me.
Gosh, I must be doing something wrong here. I'm just a floating head.
I'm all about people, doing their own research, but when it comes to doing research, having source material. In other words, having access to people that are living and breathing the thing you're talking about is, that's among some of the best research you can do. And what I was saying is, like, when I'm standing in the same room as someone who has, firsthand knowledge, their own living grandfather telling them about his experience fleeing Nazi Germany after being liberated from a death camp, and then arriving in Israel and literally like off the boat being told he had to fight. Like, it's like, this is, he trust me, that man was not fighting for religious reasons. He wasn't fighting for religious identity. He was fighting for survival. He was fighting for, you know, he was fighting against the eradication of his people. Where religion played a part in that, you know, it's like, I'm trying to tell you, it's not a religious war, bro. But yeah, by all means, do your own research. Don't listen to me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I'm just
You're coming off extremely defensive, and if you think about it, there's always two sides to every story, and there's always more than one reason for things happening. Like, there's always like accumulation of things that happen for a reason. But I mean, everyone has their own opinion, and I'm, like I said, I'm not denouncing your opinion just because you're from where you're from.
Yeah, no, but like, it's not opinion.
People can still be biased. You're acting as if like people are non-biased. Like, there are biased people out there. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying there are.
Yeah, it's not an opinion though, it's fact. Like, you can't be like, well, my opinion is that the facts that you're speaking are opinions. No, it's like, you can't disguise a fact as an opinion or insist that a fact is an opinion. A fact is a fact.
What we're talking about is that the fact is that your grandfather, like, his life is a fact, right?
Not my grandfather, my girlfriend's grandfather. His life and his experience is a fact.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
okay. Yeah. Comments.
I think it's just hard to do research if you don't know the proper materials to do research from, because a lot of books that have been written, especially of a, can I say, white nation, being Asian, a lot of the resources are based on what they think about that certain culture and not via a proper source. You know, it's always secondhand. It's always the outsider's point of view and not the own citizen's point of view. Because as a Filipino, a lot of our history is written by Christian priests and we're
exactly my point. Exactly. So yeah, you're welcome to do your own research.
Can I say something? Yo, Alex, can I say something?
And our history's been whitewashed, and we're classified as barbarians because we don't do certain things, and that, I don't know, that itself is just, you have to have your proper resources. And I agree with you, Alex, you have to have someone who's connected with that person or with that culture. Just my POV, but I agree with Alex. Thank you for opening us up with this topic.
Christian, can you hear me now?
No, look, let me let you in on a little inside joke. When the comments are over, I usually say, "Can I say something?" And then I just pray that the other talking floating head says sure, and then I say something. So can I say something?
Are you asking me? This is you couldn't hear me before?
This is the bit. This is the shtick. So I'm hoping you'll say sure. Can I say something?
I mean, no. We should probably play the rest of these comments.
Okay.
I'm not saying the fact of your grandfather coming over and what blah blah blah, but I feel like your opinion on the religious connection to it is your opinion. Like, I believe the story, but to say that there's no religion connection to it, I feel like I have to do my research.
Can I say something?
Yeah, but here's the thing,
No.
Steve. No, not yet. Because here's the thing, Steve. Just because there is religion associated because one group of people is predominantly, one religion, and then another group of people is predominantly another religion, doesn't make it a religious war.
Why you research both sides and divulge in that information and pick out what you believe to be true and what you believe to not be true, because like I said, both sides tell their own stories, both sides lie on both sides. So you gotta, at the end of the day, you gotta be able to research as much information from all different angles and then come up with your own conclusion.
Right, and what I'm saying is, you can in a second. What I'm saying is, you really have to go out of your way to find research materials by the people, written and authored by the people that experience them, and not just research materials written by white people of a Christian orientation and looking at a situation through that lens, as Irish Christy was saying, or Cindy, which was very insightful.
Yo, Prophet. Good morning. The app is definitely glitching, bro.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, man. Tap, tap, tap to stay in the room.
Christian, why don't you say something?
Well, I keep asking you, can I say something? And you keep saying no. So now my question is, why won't you let me speak?
Oh, I am letting you speak. Go for it.
But not when I'm asking you if I can speak. So it's like you're giving me permission.
Oh.
What's good, Prophet? What's good, Alex? It's me, Jose the Hype, aka J Jose. I'm just trying to hit y'all up, saying hey, what a good and wonderful morning that we are having here. Well, it's afternoon now where I am. But I just wanted to go ahead and say hey, stop by, and also introduce myself to your listeners. Hi, listeners. I'm Jose the Hype. Follow me so y'all can get some of this good ass content over here. All right. Keep it hype. Keep it positive. Love and light.
Definitely
cute. Super cute. Love it. Keep it hype. Keep it positive. Jose the Hype. Super adorable.
Sure. But who would you believe most, though? The people of that nation who's been abused by different outside sources, or the outside source? I mean, it's fine to have an outside source write your history, but that outside source should also have a connection with the one affected, right? Because how are you going to tell a story that is true or that is factual if you don't really know what is true?